Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy. Well, Jeff, sounds like we have some encouraging news for the United States.
That's right, Katan. In fact, great news for the United States economy. There is new evidence showing that job hiring is picking up a lot of speed. The Labor Department reported this week that employers added nearly 250,000 jobs last month, and growth in the previous 2 months was stronger than previously reported.
From 2008 to 2010, 8 million jobs were lost, and now 3 million are back. Despite this job increase, the unemployment rate didn't change last month, still high at 8.3%. But the rate didn't drop because in a stronger economy, more people are jumping back into the labor pool.
Now, some are wondering if this increase will continue. In an interview with CBS News, David Campbell, owner of Rings and Lumber and Hardware in Darien, Connecticut, is growing increasingly confident about the economy. When asked, was there a point at which you said, I think things are okay now? He said, about 6 months ago.
So, Mr. Campbell is expanding his business. He has hired about 15 people in the last 3 months. The economy has now added an average of 244,000 jobs a month since December. January's growth, revised up to 284,000, was the best in 6 years.
Now, economist Beth Ann Bovino had this to say about the economy. It does show that the recovery is building momentum, and that's a positive sign. However, if you remember, just early last year, we saw some pretty healthy job numbers as well, and it certainly turned around pretty quickly. So, I wouldn't necessarily say we're out of the woods yet, but it's certainly moving in the right direction.
Now, it looks like employers agree with this analysis. At Rings and Lumber, owner David Campbell has recently purchased about $1 million in equipment, buying new forklifts and trucks, showing that he is feeling better about the economy. Mr. Campbell also plans to open up 2 more stores and add about another 15 jobs.
Now, another encouraging sign, while state and local governments are still cutting jobs, the pace is slowing sharply. Just 6,000 were lost in February. Now, even with these jobs that the economy is creating, still 12.8 million Americans are out of work. And if you add people who have to settle for part-time work or those who just stop looking, the number is nearly double, about 23.5 million.
Well, that still reminds me of the words that Yeshua Hawkins said concerning the United States and its economy remaining strong clear up to the very end. It looks like these news articles are showing us that very thing.
That's right. Have you ever wondered what's in that nice, juicy package of red ground beef you buy at the supermarket? Well, this next report is going to change the way you think about what you eat. We now go to our field correspondent, Larry McGee, who is reporting on pink slime. Larry, I don't know if I like the sound of that.
Thanks, Jeff. Shocking story to present this evening for consumers. Is the meat that many people purchase at the supermarket really 100% beef, or is it being padded with the cheap filler that former USDA scientist Gerald Zernstein calls pink slime? Mr. Zernstein, who has now dedicated himself to awaken the public to the presence of the cheap filler, which is in over 70% of the ground beef being sold by the supermarket, grounds his own beef these days in an effort to avoid the slime himself. The filler in question is composed of beef trimmings which were once reserved for dog food and cooking oils, but is now being sprayed with ammonia to kill bacteria, compressed into bricks, flash frozen, and sold to meat packers and supermarkets as a cheap filler to help stretch meat and increase profits. Zernstein, along with Carl Custer, who is also a scientist, say the pink slime is nothing less than consumer fraud, and they attempted to warn against the use of it, but their efforts were blocked by higher USDA officials who ruled the pink slime to be meat based solely on its color, and the filler can now be added to beef without even having to be indicated on the packaging label, since the USDA has ruled it meat. Joanne Smith, the former Undersecretary of Agriculture responsible for the decision, which is translated into millions for Beef Products Incorporated after stepping down from her position at the USDA, was appointed by BPI's principal supplier to a director's position on its board, which earned her over $1 million over a 17-year period. Ms. Smith declined to be interviewed for any comment on tonight's topic, and Beef Producers Incorporated denied having anything to do with her appointment. The USDA says that while the move was legal at the time, current ethics rules would have prevented Ms. Smith from joining the board so immediately today. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Wow. Interesting yet disturbing report. Amazing what they'll allow in our food nowadays. We now turn our attention back to the conflict in the Middle East. Israel, with its current military arsenal, feels that it isn't readily equipped to launch a strike on Iran. And as a result, they've called on their allies in the West, the United States. Now, the U.S. agrees to supply Israel with upgraded weapons on the condition that Israel holds off attacking Iran until the end of 2012.
Now, news of the pending deal made headlines in Israeli newspapers, although Israeli authorities said that was unrealistic and have tried to downplay the statements. So far, no one has denied any of it. Now, this request was made by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on his recent trip to Washington. While there, he asked for upgraded bunker-busting bombs and upgraded aircraft to improve Israel's ability to attack Iran's underground nuclear facilities.
And experts have reported that Israel has to hit Iran in the next 6 months before Iran has the ability to get a nuclear bomb. Israel's haste is due in part because it says it doesn't have the firepower to get deep enough underground to where Iran's nuclear facilities are buried. But if Israel were to get better bombs, it could hold off until the timeline that President Obama talked about last week.
Now, currently, Israel has about 55 GBU-28 bunker-busting bombs supplied by the U.S. Now, those are the ones capable of reaching through 20 feet of reinforced concrete. Israel has asked the United States for a lot more, but as of yet, the U.S. hasn't sold anything to them. Now, the U.S. has the GBU-57B MOP, which is the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, and that is capable of reaching through 200 feet of reinforced concrete.
So far, no one knows if this upgraded weaponry is part of the deal or not. Now, keep in mind, if Israel were to go and attack Iran, Israel's F-15s and F-16s would have to fly 1,000 miles to Iran, strike 4 different nuclear sites, and fly back. Now, in order to do that, those planes would need air-to-air refueling. Now, Israel currently has only 7 planes, those being the KC-135 air tankers that were built in the 1950s. They have a 200,000-gallon fuel capacity, and what they're looking to get now is the upgraded U.S. KC-10 air tankers, which have a 360,000-gallon fuel capacity, almost double. Now, of course, having this increased fuel capacity will enable them to stay in the air longer on these missions.
Now, these are just a few of the said carrots on a stick that the United States has to offer, and according to some, can make the difference between success or failure on an Israeli attack on Iran. Of course, being an election year, President Barack Obama would like for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to be behind him. If President Obama wins re-election, he'll have the ability to put a bit more pressure on Netanyahu in regards to its plans on attacking Iran. But Katan, one thing's for certain, whether or not the U.S. supplies Israel with these military upgrades, this war in and around the Great River Euphrates is not far off.
Wow.
Well, stay tuned for our next program, where you can hear Yishra Hawkins explaining Bible prophecy like never before. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katan Alexander.
Thanks for joining us.